John Lusky of Lusky Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. Today I'm going to be testing another head by NAP, and it's their RX2, but this is not just the RX2 2-inch model, it's the RX2 and 3/16 model, 3/16 inch model. So I previously tested the RX2, the 2-inch one, last fall, and today with my 2026 regimen, I'm going to be testing this wider cut 2 and 3/16 inch model. So it'll be really interesting to compare them and see how the 2026 test compares to the 2025 test, as well to see how this wider model compares to the little bit less wide model, and to see is there a consistency in the craftsmanship and the quality control and so forth. So again, for this test, I'm going to be using my 2026 protocol. For a detailed description of that, please watch the video that I posted earlier this year called 2026 Broadhead Test Process. I've changed a lot since previous years, and the reason I say please watch it is I continue to get questions or comments that are clear. People are still thinking I'm using an old protocol. I've had a number of people say, I wish you would do a flight test from a little bit farther distance, or I wish you would use a vertical bow in the flight testing. Those are just a few of the changes that I've made, and there's many others. So if you watch that video, or if you watch these tests closely, you'll see the updated dimensions of my broadhead testing. So thank you for following up on that. And for all the vertical bow shooting, I'm using my Elite Eon, which I continue to love. And for the crossbow shooting, I'm using my Ravin LR for most of the shots. And man, I am really loving that thing. And then for all the arrows, I'm using Bishop Archery arrows. Okay, let's zoom on in here, go through some of the design features and specifications of this NAP RX2 and 3/16 inch model, and then put it to the test. Here's a good look at the KILLZONE 2 and 3/16 inch, and this is just a nice looking broadhead. Love the way it's curved and got a cool tip and all black. It's just a lot to really like about the looks, but let's break it down. First with the materials. The ferrule is a 7075 aluminum, and like I always say, if you're going to use aluminum to save weight, 7075 is a good way to go because it's stronger than some steels. And then it has a stainless steel hardened tip that's nickel coated to match that black, as well as the blades. And the blades are stainless steel blades, and they have that nickel coating on them as well. The dimensions in the tip here has a really nice tip, okay, with 4 cutting edges to it. It's pretty stout but sharp tip. That's got a 0.33 inch diameter, and the blades, when fully open, have a cut of 2 and 3/16 inches wide. Now that comes out to 2.19 inches, and by my measurements it's actually 2.16, but still really big. So the total cut is just about 2.5 inches. Comes out 2.49 inches in actual cut. The blade thickness is 0.035 inches thick, and the overall length beyond the end of the ferrule is 1.57 inches, so just over 1.5 inches. Now some features to note: it's a rear deploying mechanical, which means the blades don't deploy from the top back, but from the back forward. And the way it works is when pressure is put on these deployment arms, friction releases the blades, and the blades open up, and then they slide back into their full cutting diameter there. And you notice they also have a curve to them, which has become more trendy lately. There's been a number of broadheads that have had curved blades, like Dale Perry's broadheads, the Grave Digger, as well as the Jekyll and Hyde, and Levi Morgan, Swackers, and a number of others have utilized the benefit of curved blades. Oh, and the Beast recently has, because it just has a more efficient slicing motion that results in better bloodletting by and large. It's why you see like a katana sword, like a samurai sword, has a curve like that. It's just more efficient in slicing. So more and more broadheads are tapping into that benefit there. So it has that curved blade, and then like I said, it has a nice chiseled tip to it just for durability and bone splitting capability. And then there's no O-rings or clips. It's just the blades are held in place by friction. And the price comes out at $16.67 per broadhead. Really look forward to putting this head to the test and seeing how it performs. With the Elite Eon, the Killzone got the bullseye. And with the Ravin, it just clipped the 10 ring. It took 250 grams of force to cut through the wire, which is a 9.5 on a 10-point scale. It penetrated 6 inches, and you can see the blades opened extremely well on impact, and they remained fully deployed throughout the entire penetration into the gel. It took an additional 23 grams of force to cut through the wire, which is a 9.54 on a 10-point scale. It penetrated through 54 layers, which is a 7.71 on a 10-point scale. It held together very well after the 3 shots through the MDF. The only damage was that the blades got a little bit more swept back after the 3 shots. And it stayed together structurally quite well after the 2 shots through the steel plate. The tip got a little bit blunted, the blades experienced a bit of edge chatter, and they got even more swept back. And you can see the holes there, pretty decent holes, not the full deployment size because they swept back a little bit, but still decent holes nonetheless. Here's the Killzone RX after all the durability testing. It held up quite well through the 3 shots to the MDF, which is the most important, especially for mechanical. And the blades just got bent back just a little bit. And then it held up really well through the steel plate. I was surprised. It held up through 2 shots in the steel plate. The tip got a little bit blunted. The blades got a little bit of chatter, and they got bent, swept backwards a bit more. But they stayed together through 2 shots. That's really rare with the steel plate and a mechanical. And then into the concrete, it just basically exploded. And this was all I could find. Okay, there's more pieces out there on my property, but it just couldn't hold up to that with the aluminum ferrule being as vented as it is and long as it is. Just couldn't hold up to that force. You can see it got pretty bent there, and the blades didn't break off. They just fell out because the ferrule exploded like that. But even though this looks really terrible, this cinder block is really just kind of an extra durability test. I'd say overall, again, above average durability, especially for a mechanical. So what'd you think? Man, it did so much better than the 2-inch model. I knew it'd have a wider cut and it would do better with that, and the blades were really similar. But man, the durability was just remarkably different. The very same test that I did before in durability, but it just performed so much better. And then the flight testing, it performed so much better as well. So man, it's interesting to see this difference. It kind of makes me want to go back and test the RX2, the shorter model, to see if I got a bad batch or something. But it does show there's a little bit of inconsistency in their quality control, because I purchased these both at the same time. But hey, this one performed really well. So you check out the score sheet and see how it did in the areas that matter to you the most, and see if this broadhead might be a good fit for you. And stay tuned for the overall cumulative score, as well as the corresponding Lusk grade. And also stay tuned for a list of all the discount codes that I can offer just to help you save some money in the field. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you next time.